Welcome, Aquaba. Today, I'll be telling you another of my favorite Ananse stories. It is about how Ananse got majorly paid back by Turtle. It never pays to be too smart. I hope you enjoyed the story as much as I did. Shh! Ananse sem trikasa. Ananse sem siso. Ananse and Turtle were best friends. People often wondered how their bond was so strong as Ananse lived on land and Turtle lived mostly in water, only meeting once every blue moon. Well, one day, just as Ananse was about to eat his dinner of freshly baked yams that he had picked from his farm, who would come knocking on his door but his best friend Turtle. "Oh, Ananse, I could not have timed my visit better," Turtle said. "It is believed that people who meet you when you are about to have a meal or during the course of a meal are lucky." Turtle continued, "After being hungry for so long, I'm so glad that the delicious smell of yams that I perceived almost a mile away is coming from your house. Let's sit down and eat." Ananse could not refuse because, as even toddlers know, it is customary in the Akan tradition to share your food with visitors at mealtime. But Ananse was not happy at all because he had cultivated the yam with his blood and toil and sweat without any help from anybody. And besides, if he had known that Turtle would be coming to visit, he probably would not have used the big fat yams that day. After all, there were some not so delicious, miserable looking yams that were also on his farm. So, Ananse thought of a plan to eat the food all by himself without seeming greedy. As Turtle took a seat and tried to grab a yam, Ananse said, "Ah, Turtle, dirty hands, dirty hands. What use is food eaten with dirty hands? It will only make you sick. Get to the pot of water outside and clean your hands so we can eat together. In the meantime, since I was just about to start, I would like to take a head start because I am so hungry." Turtle, with his usual slow speed, went outside to clean his hands and came back. He was surprised that more than a third of the food was gone. Hungry, he again reached for another piece of yam. Ananse hit his hand again. "Turtle, did you not just go outside to wash your hands? Why are they still so dirty? Please, do it once again and make sure that this time you come back with clean hands." Obviously, by the time Turtle came back a second time, all the food was gone except for two measly looking bent slices of yam in the pot. As my best friend Turtle, as hungry as I was feeling, I couldn't finish the food without you. Please, take one piece and let me take the other, and let's eat together as brothers, Ananse told him. By this time, Turtle had caught on to the plan. He thanked Ananse politely and told him that it seemed that all of a sudden he was not hungry anymore. Ananse was just as happy to eat the rest of the food in peace like he had already planned to anyway. After their normal discussions, Turtle set off for his home. But before he did, he invited Ananse to visit him so he could return the favor by preparing a delicious feast for him. 2 days before the agreed date, Ananse decided not to eat to allow for enough space in his stomach, since Turtle had mentioned the word feast. When the date finally arrived, despite his hunger, Ananse dressed in his best kente cloth and was able to hurriedly get to Turtle's river bank well before dinner time. Luckily for Ananse, when he got there, he could tell that Turtle had already set up a lovely table for him in his house at the bottom of the river. In fact, it was a feast indeed. Turtle invited Ananse to come down and eat. This was just what he had been waiting for. Ananse dove into the river, but instead of sinking to the bottom, he remained afloat, flailing his 8 legs and making every effort to descend to the food. There's a lot of food to eat, and because I spent all day cooking for you, I'm a little hungry, Turtle told Ananse. So, I'm going to go ahead and start. Ananse devised a strategy. Running towards the river, he sprang into the air and dove in. He did descend a little, but simply floated right back to the top. By this time, Turtle had emptied the full bowl of food. Seeing this gave Ananse just the right motivation he needed to climb up to a tree. When he got to the top, he dove in with all his might. This time, he was able to get close enough to the feast table to see Turtle eating the last of the 8 eggs that had been on another delicious looking bowl of greens before coming up to the surface. Then Ananse had a really clever idea. How about he gets some rocks and tie it to different sides of his cloth to keep from floating back up? It worked. This time around, Ananse was able to sink all the way to the bottom, and he stayed there. Ha! Relief. He took a seat across from Turtle and went straight for some meat inside the last bowl of food, which was half eaten. Ananse, stop! Turtle yelled. Take this and change into dry clothes before you catch a cold. Ananse quickly took the offered clothes and started discarding the cloth which he had brought down with the rocks in them. Before he knew it, he was back up at the surface of the river. Ananse felt defeated and he turned to go home. How come you're going home so quickly, Ananse? In any case, I'm glad you could come for this feast. We have to do this sooner rather than later, Turtle told Ananse with a big smile. As he was leaving, Ananse heard Turtle saying to himself, at least I did not have to go through all that acrobatics display. All I had to do was to go and wash my hands. Then Ananse knew it had been payback time. Turtle was just giving him a taste of his medicine of how he felt when Ananse had denied him dinner. Experience, they say, teaches better than advice, and Turtle had really served him a nice one. What do you think? Will Ananse change with the lesson? Well, we'll live to see. Please type in the comment section if you think Ananse will be a changed creature. Thank you for listening to my Ananse on how Ananse got paid back by Turtle. I hope you enjoyed it as well as I did. For other interesting stories, please click on the link in the description below and subscribe to support my channel. Until next time, when we meet by the fireside under the moonlight, keep smiling.